26 years ago, I was president of the student union in Lasso. Wow. And 26 years ago, we had hopes, we had dreams, we had aspirations for where we expected to be 26 years after that murder took place. Comrade Malachi has done a fantastic job of laying the legal foundation for why we can stand up anywhere and call what happened to Saro Wiwa murder. The Nigerian state, headed by General Abacha, represented by Justice Auta, murdered Saro Wiwa. We can say that without mincing words because those are established facts. But the unfortunate thing about us Nigerians is that we are not unlike the chicken you find in poultries. There is a detachment when you bring one of the fowl and you slaughter it in front of the rest, and then you cook your pot of soup and you drop the entrails for the rest. They will eat the entrails. There is a disconnect. They fail to understand that what they are eating is not in any way different from themselves, and that even though the number for that particular cockerel came up that day, it might very well be their own number that might be coming up the next day. There is a perpetual disconnect. It only ever happens to others. We never ever seem capable of drawing the common thread between the tragedies that plays out in our lives on a daily basis and what is happening to our fellow Nigerians up and down the length of Nigeria. Today we are talking about Saro Wiwa and the Ogoni 8, or is it 9 now? Numbers don't matter in Nigeria anymore. We get killed every day by different things for different reasons without reason. So it's gotten to the point where we've become almost desensitized. So when I received the invitation to come and speak on this subject today, I realized that there is a critical importance for a need to connect the threads for ourselves so that we stop dealing with these issues as though they be happening in isolation and as though they were disconnected. I listened to a doctor and I listened to the comrade president of TUC when he was talking. And I noticed that my brother Malachi as well, everybody keeps drawing this thread. And we draw the thread, but we fail to make the connection. Somebody, a doctor it was, that pointed out that the same spirit that was at play in murdering the Ogoni people and Saro Wiwa was equally at play at Odi. It was the same spirit you saw at Zakibiam. It's the same spirit you saw at the Lekki toll gate. It's the same spirit you see every day when the Nigerian police points its gun and shoots a Nigerian, declaring sometime on camera, I will kill you and nothing will happen. But we continue to tell these stories without making the connections. And these connections are critical. I was arguing with a gentleman. Don't worry, I tend to ramble a lot, but I'll bring it all together eventually. I was talking with a gentleman, incidentally he's in this gathering. He posted something. He said he was tired of us always talking. And because it connected with an argument that I had been having for a few days and weeks with some people, even people who have paid very high prices for talking, are becoming tired of talking. So it's almost as if there is a paralysis that we have embraced because we only ever seem to talk. So we stopped celebrating talking, conveniently forgetting that the likes of Saro Wiwa were killed for talking. Omoyele Sowore is today judicially, quote and unquote, restricted to Abuja for talking. It's for nothing more than that. Fela Anikulapo never did anything beyond giving expression to his thoughts, whether that be in songs or it be in speeches. All he ever did was talk, and yet he was hounded all through his life. Isn't it instructive that in Nigeria, it is actually more dangerous for you to be a student union activist than to be a cultist? The Nigerian university system will prosecute you, persecute you, contract your mother if it could, and we know some cases. Uniben comes to mind, Ife comes to mind, and use the same cultists to kill the activists. So when you look at the fact that within the university environment, and a student union activist is an endangered species, but the violent cultist is a protected entity, it begins to give you an idea of the kind of system in which you exist. Terrorists in Nigeria are called vandals. They are called businessmen. They are called bandits. But the same state and its rulers, whether those be Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba, Fulani, whatever, they are very quick to brand those who demand citizenship rights as terrorists, using the agency of the state. So Yele Sowore is a terrorist. That was one of the first charges that was raised against Yele. They're very quick to do that. A Sunday Igboho is a terrorist. In fact, they were very quick to find the names of the sponsors. The same with Nnamdi Kanu. But the real terrorists, whom other countries have given their names, are protected by the Nigerian state. So at this point, let me now begin to bring it together for all of us. Let me announce to you, you are not citizens. You need to first of all wrap your brains around the fact that even though you are sometimes lied to and addressed as citizens, you are not citizens, you are indigents. And okay, let me be nice to you and call you denizens. Those are people who live in an environment. Those who are called citizens have rights. Citizens protest because they have votes, and because they are protesting to those they have appointed to office by their votes, they listen to them and make the necessary adjustments in satisfaction of the yearning of the people that led to the protest in the first place. Denizens and indigents and residents, you don't protest because you are disturbing the peace of your feudal lords. So when you protest, they kill you. In extreme cases, such as the case of Saro Wiwa, they will use the justice system, which actually delivers no justice. If it delivers justice, you wouldn't have people still in Kirikiri a year after NSAS. A year after, there are people in jail, in prisons. The government continues to lie about what it did on the day, and amongst us, there are still people who tell these same lies on behalf of the state. You are not citizens. Wrap your brains around that fact quickly. Second fact, you are not in a democracy. Campaign for democracy and human rights. Abi? Committee for defense of human rights. You don't defend human rights in a democracy. Human rights are established by reason of your citizenship. This organization remains relevant today because the Nigerian still isn't in a democracy. Not only is he not a citizen, he is not in a democracy. So when you start talking about 2023 election, it means that you have already bought into certain illusions and lies. You've embraced the lie of your citizenship, which is a lie. You've also embraced the lie that you're in a democracy. People don't switch off lights and cameras in a democracy. Citizens are not murdered and their citizenship and humanity is denied in a democracy. You want an apology and exoneration. in relation to Ken Saro-Wiwa. The Nigerian state has refused to tell us how many people were killed on November 17, 1993 on the Ikorodu Road. We were in this Lagos before Abacha took over. Flatbed trucks were on the Ikorodu Road. They were killing people and they were picking up the bodies. Those people remain unaccounted for today. And we are talking about Lekki Toll Gate. The Nigerian state is well practiced in the art of murdering its own citizens, quote and unquote. So when we are now talking about what? Apology? Before you get that apology, it will mean that you have done the needful. And what are the needful? You've gained your citizenship, which you don't have. You've won a democracy, which you don't have. And then you have managed to build a nation. Because what you have currently is not a nation, is not even a state. Those who rule us are actually banking on the disintegration of Nigeria. They are not hopeful. They don't dispense hope. They themselves are completely hopeless. And they are counting on us to fall on ourselves, kill ourselves, in different wars on their behalf so that they might escape the justice that rightly should come to them. In a place where people are afraid of consequences, you do not find the likes of Ponde fainting in the National Assembly. In a place where people are afraid of consequences, nobody is going to be talking about off the mic. That is not going to happen. The only reason they are offering mic and they are fainting is because they don't expect that you hold them to account. They expect that we will sit down in places like this, in silos, and be speaking Dogon Turenchi to ourselves, and then we like it online, we forward it, we share it, and it ends there. If you are interested in becoming citizens, if a democracy interests you, if you truly want the sacrifice of Kenole Wiwa to count for something, you have to learn the lessons of the past to navigate the future. And one of the lessons we need to learn very quickly is a clear understanding of the need to correctly define the nature of our struggle. We are not in a pro-democracy struggle. That's a distraction. It is a distraction. You can mobilize around issues if you are dealing with a settled democracy where you are seeking concessions. But when you are dealing with a system where your humanity is discounted and those who are meant to protect you are the ones who hunt for your life, you don't go around talking democracy. You talk about liberation. We have a liberation struggle in front of us. Anything that turns Nigeria around is a revolution. The hope of the poor man and those of us who are conscious enough to understand the evil nature of the state in which we live, our challenge is to ensure that this does not devolve into violence, because that is what the state and our rulers would prefer. They are the practitioners in the art of violence. They would happily engage if we turn violent. In fact, refusing to turn violent is a problem for them. If you remember, I don't want to take too much of our time. You know, I've warned you, I like the sound of my own voice. But I'm also conscious of the need to round these up. The key thing I want all of us to understand is that when people talk about the worst form of democracy being better than dictatorship, which was what my brother Edauto was raising, I laugh. There are shades to the truth. Is either the truth or is a lie. When Nigeria talks about true federalism, what you are hearing is a lie. They've distracted you completely. Is either federalism or is not federalism. When you are now talking true federalism, it's already telling you are debating a lie. So when you talk about the least democracy. There is no least democracy. In every democracy, the right of the citizen is paramount. In any place where you find citizenship rights blithely discounted, abrogated, and dismissed, as is the case in Nigeria, the reality is that you don't have a democracy. So, what we have, we must be quick to tell ourselves, inform our colleagues, tell the mass out there, you don't have a democracy. We're in a dictatorship. It pretends to be a democracy, but if it were to be a democracy, your votes will count, your voice will count, and your rights would matter. There is not sufficient to say that, because, okay, so I say, I have named this crude oil. It doesn't make it crude oil, it's still water. I can call it crude oil as many times as I care, and the proof of my stupidity will be when I manage to turn it into my car. If, let me even say I call it petrol, it remains water. If I turn it into my car engine will knock. Simple. That is where we are. A friend of mine was starting the burial of Secretaries today. He's exactly my age. He didn't plan to die. None of us ever do. But we all do eventually. Human beings have that stupid habit of dying. It's in our character. But it becomes an empowering knowledge when it guides the actions and choices that we make in our lives. The memory of the temporal nature of the life we have been blessed to live should motivate us to do things that history would remember. You spoke glowingly of Saro. Other people have several other things to say about him. He alluded to it as well. Some people have less than salutary things to say, mostly my brothers from the African land. But let me put it this way. Over the course of a man's life, it balances out. History will recall the things you did in the moments when the nation was at its inflection point. Nigeria is at an inflection point right now. The ease with which our liberation struggle will be prosecuted will depend to a very large extent on how connected the labor movement becomes in the coming days, weeks, and months. And if it evolves into violence, it would also be largely because the labor movement would have sold us out as it usually do. I am not speaking to you as a person. I am speaking to an entire movement. When we were sat back there before we were called up here, somebody was recalling, I believe he was a daughter, when the labor movement in Nigeria was at its most effective. We didn't have internet. We didn't have any WhatsApp. There were no phones. But the labor movement did the needful. It educated the people. It had not become as existential as we have all become now. It's not just a labor movement problem. It's a pan-Nigerian problem. We've become an existential people. All I'm saying is, let each and every one of us play our roles. But those roles become much easier to play when we have clarity as to the exact nature of the struggle that is in front of us. We are in a liberation struggle. In this place I've always done. Wasn't anywhere near as successful as what the kids of NSAS did last year. So it's not about mobilization. When it comes to mobilization, the tools of mobilizations have been made easier and much more accessible. The average Nigerian is a TV broadcast station now. You can pick up your phone and broadcast your ideas. Question is, what are the ideas that you are broadcasting? People talk about the disconnect of the Nigerian youth. What they fail to understand is that the disconnect is not by accident. We have been rendered existential. If you are not running after what you eat, you're running after what you drink, what you pay in salaries, what you pay in rent, how you get from point A to point B. You are worried about the herdsman who might attack you on your farm, the farm that you started
when you couldn't get a job. So you find that at every point in time, the Nigerian's attention is focused on a subject of existence. So he's always worried about something or the other. So when you are constantly worried and then you are mobilizing around the wrong issues, so you find hundreds of millions of Nigerians engaged with Big Brother Nigeria because they can relate to it. But when you now ask the same person to connect with your protests, he can't connect with the protests because it doesn't make sense to him. If you want it to make sense to him, you need to paint him a picture of where you want to take him. And agree is not a governing alternative. Just because you don't agree, okay, we have heard you agree. So what do you want? That thing that you want, that is your mobilization too. Tell them what it is that you want to do that is different from what the PDP, the APC, the BBB, whatever they are doing. You say you want revolution. What does your revolution look like? You need to be able to paint a picture of the place you want to take them that is different from the place that they have. If all you are doing is that you are saying, I don't agree, what they are doing is wrong, what that one is doing is bad, okay, we heard you. Nigerians have heard us sufficiently. They've heard us, we've told them everything that is bad. What we have not managed to communicate, which might be the disconnect in our mobilization, aside from the wrong diagnosis, we haven't told them where we are taking them. So let's decide exactly where are we taking them. I'll give you the story of Mama Onifufu of the Revolution Now Meet before I round up. Iya Onifufu story, I've told it several times. Iya Onifufu was busy selling her fufu in Osogbo, carrying her fufu from one point to the other, okay. And then she saw this orange beret wearing young men shouting revolution now. So she asked her, so what does it mean? They said we want a better life for the poor, this must happen for the poor, that must. So the persons in question evangelized to Mama Onifufu, and Iya Onifufu dropped a pound of fufu and followed the Revolution Now activists. That was August 5, 2019. And that was Iya Onifufu. There are several Iya Onifufus out there, but who is talking to them? And when you're talking to them, please, when you're talking to them, what are you saying to them? Those are the basis for any mobilization. To now come to Convedansu, you see, the Nigerian universities that we attended is not the one that you have today. We can rail against the wind all we care and ignore to admit the truth to ourselves. I went to university, Lagos State University, Okokomaiko, in Ojo. It was government secondary school Ojo 2 years before I entered that school in 1985. As at the time I entered there, one of the things, when we shouted greatest last right in those days, we used to punctuate it. We would look at students from Ife and Unilab and other places and we will tell you come from places where you qualify to talk about greatness on account of the buildings. We didn't have buildings, we had secondary school blocks, classrooms. But the quality of minds could reach out and grasp greatness. Our minds could not be imprisoned. We were in Okokomaiko physically. We didn't have internet. There were no phones. But we were not limited to Okokomaiko. Where are today's university students? They are busy chasing something or the other to survive. The Nigerian university system is as rotten as the Nigerian police, as the Nigerian judiciary, as the Nigerian custom. Every aspect of Nigeria is rotten. Let's stop fooling ourselves. So when you talk about people not, look, when I was in the university, you were always looking forward to graduating so you could come back and catch jambite and all those kinds of things. By the time we left Okokomaiko, we didn't want to come back because there were people who had become specialists in slaughtering themselves. Society had already begun to happen to LASU before we left. And by the time, a year after we had left LASU, they were killing student union people. That is not isolated to LASU, it's all over the country. So àìsàn tó ń ṣe ẹgbẹ̀fà olóṣọ̀ọ́dúnrún àìsàn tó ń ṣàbọ̀radé gbogbo ọlọ́yà ló ń ṣe. Nigeria is not putrefied in parts. The putrefaction is from top to bottom. It is not sectoral, it is systemic. Every part of Nigeria is touched by the decay. None is spared. We can sit down, like I always say, we can keep speaking these dogon trenches and lie to ourselves and pretend that these things are not real. But the reality is that if we must be saved, we have to admit to the truth of our situation. And if you are mobilizing, to come back to that question of mobilization again, mobilizations only happen successfully when you have a message that is found in truth and you are able to discern that truth and communicate it. That is what mobilizes people.